time now for Movie Spotlight, our weekly segment where we review some of the latest releases at the Korean box office and online. Providing those reviews for us are our film critics. First, we have with us Jason Bechervaise. Jason, hello, it's good to see you.
Hello, Django.
And we also have Darcy Paquet with us as well. Darcy, hello to you too.
Hi, good to see you.
Okay, we start today with a major release for Korean cinema. In fact, it's being seen as one of the industry's biggest box office hopes for 2023. It is the Roundup No Way Out, or 범죄도시 3 in Korean. It is the third installment in this very successful series starring Ma Dong-seok, aka Don Lee. And this, of course, comes barely a year after the runaway success of The Roundup last year. So, Jason, can you start us off by telling us a bit more about this series of films?
Yeah, sure. It began with a film called The Outlaws, or 범죄도시, back in 2017. It was a sleeper here. It was released in Chuseok. And yeah, it did really well. And yeah, directed by Kang Yoon-Sung. And it kind of solidified Ma Dong-seok's kind of persona as this kind of action hero. You see him kind of punching through the train in Train to Busan, and this very much kind of further kind of just cemented that image, if you like. And yeah, it was an action comedy, and yeah, it just proved really, really popular. It was set in the kind of mid 2000s in kind of Chinatown in Seoul. And you have these thugs that causing trouble, and his character is just really playful, but at the same time he's this cop that doesn't really follow the rules, quite unorthodox, and yeah, he has his punch, right, and he's just punching people around, and then I think that what's worked really well with these films, at least with the first two, less so with the latest, is the villain. So Yoon Sang played the villain in the first film, and he's really kind of formidable, and you have the two characters up against each other, and it just works really, really well. And yeah, it sold 7 million tickets. And then the sequel that was released last year, the Roundup, it was just phenomenally successful, selling 12.7 million tickets. Partly shot in Vietnam, and the second half of the film, I rewatched it a couple of weeks ago. It's just fantastic. That kind of set piece in Ilsan, which is it's just I love it. And the first half of the film sucks, but the second half really gets going. And Son Seok-gu is the villain in that film, and he's really impressive too. So and then now we're with the third film in the franchise. A fourth film has been shot. And so the Korean film industry is struggling. There's a lot of weight on Ma Dong-seok's,
broad humongous
shoulders.
Yeah.
Shoulders. And so it's doing very well. It's sold 2 million tickets.
Right. So Darcy, as Jason mentioned, the Korean film industry is really hoping that this is going to be another hit. It could really do with another hit. I understand that it is doing well so far, putting in blockbuster numbers in the first few days of its release.
Yeah, I mean, its first day on release was Wednesday, and it sold 740,000 tickets. And, we haven't seen numbers like that since before the pandemic, really. And, yesterday it did well as, add another 500,000 tickets. And the reservation rates for the weekend are quite high. So I think that, quite soon we can expect this is going to be jumping up towards the level of the, at least the first film and perhaps the second film as well. I mean, there have been so many big films that have been released by the Korean film industry in the past 12 months that just haven't quite lived up to their potential. And so seeing one, just really kind of hit its target and perhaps even do a little bit better than that, it's a rare piece of optimism for the Korean film industry.
Right, so already over 1 million tickets sold.
2 million.
2 million already.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had some advanced screenings last week.
So they kind of cheated.
Okay,
it's like I got the press release that says 2 million tickets on the third day of release. It's like, well, come on, you have previews
plus
every week.
last weekend.
okay, but still 2 million. That's very impressive. As we said, the industry will be hoping that it has staying power as well, that it will break some more records. What are the ways that it will do that if the film is any good, if people recommend it, of course? So let's get into that now. Jason, we haven't actually talked about what the film is about, what this
you
film
don't
is
need
about.
to know, actually. Let's be honest. But yeah, you've got two villains, and a corrupt police detective played by Lee Jun-hyuk, and also a Japanese gangster played by Minetaka Akoi. So yeah, those two are up to no good. And yeah, Ma Dong-seok, well, his character, you essentially see him, great opening sequence actually, but anyway, but yeah, essentially what he's doing is investigating a murder or a series of murders, and that leads him to a major drug smuggling operation tied to the Japanese Yakuza. And yeah, it gets a little bit kind of not convoluted. It's fairly simple to follow, but there's just lots of characters and lots of bad people.
Okay, so it seemed like you had a lot of affection, especially for the second film.
Yeah.
What do you make of this one then?
Honestly, a bit disappointing. I think going back to a point I made earlier, I think one of the reasons why the first two films work so well are the characters, especially the villains, and of course Ma Dong-seok, particularly. But here we've got two villains, and they're not very good. Sorry, Lee Jun-hyuk, he's not very good. He's terrible in this film. He's just so bland. It's just, he doesn't have that intensity that some of the other villains had. And yeah, and you've got you've got two central villains, and then you've got, their bosses, and it just doesn't feel disciplined. I mean, it's just a bit all over the place. It's less focused. And in the last film, there was this really interesting set piece at the end of the film, which really felt quite cathartic. And here, it's just basically what Ma Dong-seok is doing is just punching. That's all he does in this film, is punching. And I don't want to say it's a one-trick pony, but it just felt that it was somewhat overused, overkilled, it's not a bad film. I enjoyed it. It's still entertaining. There's lots of laughs. The audience was clearly enjoying themselves. But, it's a bit disappointing. It feels a bit dark as well, like the first film. So aesthetically, it shares some similarities to the first movie. But I just think it's the weakest of the series so far. So hopefully the next installment, the fourth one, will be better than this one.
Okay, so a bit unfortunate sounds like. Darcy, what about you? How did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit conflicted as a film critic because, I don't want to be telling people not to go to this film, which is going to save the Korean film industry. Please buy a ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, compared to the previous one, I think this one is a little bit less fun, a little bit less unique, a little bit more bland. I mean, there are a couple interesting characters along the way, and moments when the film kind of comes alive to a certain extent, but
the audience reactions doesn't seem as strong as the first two films as well.
Do you think it was a bit rushed, maybe, this film, the way it was put together, because the Roundup last year did so well and the Korean film industry need hits, that they perhaps rushed this film through and they've got a fourth film, as you said, on the way? Is that
having
possibly
shot
an issue?
2 films in 12 months, I think that...
It's only a year ago that the Roundup came out.
Yeah, it's possible. It doesn't feel sloppy. It just feels less ambitious. The sequences in the previous installment were just absolutely fantastic. These car chases that were just really well done. And here it's just, Ma Dong-seok just, punching people, and it just it's fun, but it gets tiring after a while, and it becomes more formulaic. And so the next film also was shot really quickly, so it may suffer from the same problems. I hope not. But yeah, please go out and see it. The film industry needs its support.
We highly recommend this slightly disappointing film.
It's not bad.
Okay, on that note, we'll leave that review there. So that was The Roundup and No Way Out. Let's move on to our second film of the week, which is The Quiet Girl, or 말없는 소녀 in Korean. It's a debut feature from Ireland, shot mostly in the Irish language as well. The film was nominated for the Best International Feature Film at this year's Oscars. Darcy, can you tell us more about this one?
Yes, it's based on a novella called Foster, which was published in 2010 by the author Claire Keegan. And apparently the director, read the novel and knew immediately that he wanted to turn this into a film. So it's set in 1981, And it centers around a 9-year-old girl from a rural town who's quite withdrawn, and like she doesn't fit in at school, and even in her family, like her parents and her siblings seem to have either given up on her or just have no interest in her. And so the mother gets pregnant again, and her parents decide to send her away for the summer because they just really don't want to deal with her. And there's some distant cousins. It's an older couple, quite far away from their home, but who run a farm. And so basically, the film's quite simple. It's about this quiet summer that they spend together. The girl slowly starts to open up to her new family in a way that she never did with her real parents. And the film's just about that process.
Okay, so Jason, it's interesting. It's rare for Irish films to really break out internationally, but this film really does seem to have connected with audiences, right?
Oh yeah, it's very good, it ranks as the best-selling Irish language film of all time. It screened at the Berlin Film Festival and won the top prize in a section devoted to films about children and young adults. Certainly well deserved. Also screened in Busan, that's where you saw it, Darcy, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And it's the first Irish language film to be nominated for an Oscar. That was a surprise. And so, I think there was a screening with the Irish ambassador here in Seoul with some celebrities. So, it's certainly broken out, and for good reason. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, what about it is fantastic?
It is, I wasn't quite prepared for it, actually. It's like really slow paced. I mean, it's really beautiful. It's so well shot, and the acting is extraordinary. And there's a focus on these just little things, and we don't really know what's happened within, these two families, but eventually we do find out that there are kind of signs there. And sometimes, as critics talk about, don't tell, show, and this film is very much like that, because it's showing us. You don't have characters kind of revealing information through dialogue. It's not like that. We can see they're dealing with pain. We can see the various kind of issues that they're facing, and then it leads to this point in the film that just I was in tears. So it's really good. I don't want to say too much more because I'll spoil it.
Wow, I can see right now that you're visibly moved, even though thinking about it, looking back on it. Darcy, what about you? How did you find it? Yeah,
I mean, for me as well, it's a really outstanding film. I think that it really excels at kind of showing the relationships between people in a non-verbal way. I mean, nobody ever actually comes out and says things directly, but I mean, just in spending time together, you can see that this young girl has finally found someone who she's comfortable with, and that, slowly she starts to change, but we don't see it, again, through words. We just see it in these really kind of small gestures as she spends time together with this older couple. And so it really, at first you're not really sure, how far the film's going to pull you in, but just very subtly it does.
Very subtly and in ways you don't expect. And for me anyway, it really, really touched me. It's really profound.
Wow, it sounds like a very compelling film, perhaps a small masterpiece, we could say.
Sure, absolutely, without a doubt. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
so that was The Quiet Girl. That's where we're gonna have to leave it. Jason, Darcy, thank you as always, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, have a great weekend.